Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. I'm hoping you guys are all having a fantastic day. So I want to go over today, Tuesday morning, quickly run down some aspects about the weather, the pattern change, what might be going on in the next few days and weeks. Cold air, potentially some snow systems, and just overall a very active pattern. While the details are really fuzzy on this, and unfortunately I just can't provide you a detailed forecast at this point, there is a general trend towards colder air and snowier weather than normal for October, so I feel like it's still going to be an interesting video. So if you guys are new to this channel, hello and welcome. I do videos about the weather, and everyone on this channel likes the weather, and we talk about the weather. We could get forecasts from each other, provide information. So it's a really cool hobby-like channel, and if you'd like to join and subscribe, consider doing so. And if you'd like to support the video, liking the video would be the best. Okay, so let's start off by looking at the GFS. Notice that right now the newest model of the GFS is coming in. So I want to start off by looking at the GFS model. Notice that it's still progressing, the newest model run. It's still processing. That's what I wanted to say. And it only goes out to hour 108, which isn't that far out, but I still will show you the newest one up to 108, and then the previous one up to the regular standard 384 hours. So let's start off by looking at what's going on right now across the country. We noticed that there's quite a bit of activity already, at least by the coasts, not necessarily in the central part of the country. Notice we see quite a bit of rain across the northeast and eastern United States. The northwest and southwestern Canada do see quite a bit of rain and heavy snow. Obviously the heavy snow limited to the higher elevations and further to the north. As we see this evolve, we see the rain push off the northeast, and we see the system in the northwest push further inland into the northern plains, and it is far enough and kind of limited enough in the sense that it doesn't connect with the tropics, so it can't really pick up a lot of moisture and become a strong strengthening system. So what we see is this storm does have a very gradual strengthening, but it doesn't do anything significant. It moves into northern U.S. and southern Canada, so definitely dropping a few showers and storms. The winds with the system are decent, though they're not awfully powerful. The big thing with this system is that it will bring a lot of cold air relative to its size. I mean, you can see we have a 540 line dipping into Missouri, Illinois, Indiana, and that is definitely somewhere where it doesn't belong at this time of the year. It's out of the ordinary, nothing record-breaking we have seen as before, but it's definitely not a typical thing we would see. Notice that the remnants of the cold front energy provided by that system starts developing some rain and rain showers across the northeast later this week, towards Thursday, Friday, and more towards the weekend, and we see a strengthening possible storm system across the East Coast. And if you recall, the GFS model, Global Forecasting System, was the model that really was reluctant to show any significant development of a storm system at around the weekend time frame. And I mean, it's reluctant compared to the other models, because the other models, the European, the Canadian, were showing a much larger storm, and the GFS wasn't, and now you can see it is showing a larger storm. Still not as large as what the Canadian is showing, but that definitely will still be impacting the United States. It seems, especially since the GFS is now starting to take on more of what the Canadian is showing, and you can see a lot more activity, a lot more potential. Obviously, this isn't awfully far out in the forecasting range. It's around 7 days, 6 to 7 days, a little bit less out. So while yes, change will happen, this probably won't happen the way it's showing. Definitely some characteristics of this will stay. Now, again, I wanted to talk about the temperatures more in this video rather than the snow systems, because I will make a separate video about that in the afternoon. Let's see what's going on right now. You can see there's a lot of warmth and a minimal cool air. The cool air is really a bit across the southeast, but you can see it gets smothered, and across the northern United States and southwestern Canada. That eventually spills into United States into Friday and Saturday. It's really nothing too significant, and the major pattern change only proceeds to start after the storm system across the East Coast, and you can see Sunday into Monday we could be looking at some very, very drastic temperature drops, pushing temperatures well into the 16 to 20 degrees below average in terms of Celsius, so even more in terms of Fahrenheit if you were to do the correct conversion. 2 meter temperature shaded, you can see this is the daytime highs. We see 30s, lower 30s, and just below 30s, and into the lower and upper 20s across much of the mountains and even some of the plains. So very, very cold temperatures. You can see this is at nighttime. This is more typical of October or November, about a month ahead. So definitely something we don't like to see, because these type of temperature drops usually don't fare well in terms of any positivity. I mean, they could put some strain on many factors. The crops, while the crops aren't growing at this point, they are still being harvested, so cold temperatures freezing the soil and the crops definitely isn't good. But seeing hot temperatures on the other side also wouldn't be the best. But any extreme at any time of the year really isn't that welcome, and this will be a pretty extreme contrast. So now I went back to one model run prior, and I want to go back to temperatures, not the storm system. I keep going back to that. Let's take a look at the temperatures. So you can see very similar setup with the previous model run. The moderately cool air moves in late week, early weekend across the eastern United States. Then we start seeing the very, very cold air move into the northern United States. You can see it's colder because of the colors, and the anomalies are indicating of that. Right there we have negative 12 to 16 to 20 degrees below average in Celsius, and Fahrenheit approaching many areas negative 30 below average. This is now midday Sunday, so it weighs away, it's a ways out, if you will, but there's definitely still a lot of support showing this, and the model's just been so consistent that it would be blatant to ignore this, and I'm not an alarmist of any sort. I'll show you the climate prediction forecast in just a minute, and it's pretty much agreeing with this right on. So we see a lot of cooler temperatures. Thankfully, they do seem to go down in magnitude as they push into the southeast, but definitely still very chilly, very cold. And if we get any precip across these locations, we could see some early snow across the upper plains and where it's cold enough. And this isn't unheard of. We have seen snow in October before, and even years prior. Last year there was a Halloween snowstorm. The year before that there was, we had I think an inch of snow, and around mid to late October here in Chicago. So yeah, while a big snowstorm is unusual, light snow events aren't. Maybe they're not every year, but that doesn't make it unusual in the grand scheme of things. Notice that as we push us into really far out into time, Wednesday, Thursday, we see a lot of the cooler start to dwindle, and at this point it becomes uncertain whether it will be more heat dominated by these warm colors or cool weather dominated. But definitely the models still include the mention of a cooler air coming back in. As you can see, it's included by this GFS right here, and that seems to be supported by quite a bit of models. If you were to look at the GFS parallel model, it's pretty much the updated, newer version of the GFS, and so far it has been doing a better job, so it definitely is a good model. Notice warmth as of now into Wednesday, Thursday. By Thursday morning, we start seeing temperatures push into the cooler ranges across the northern Rockies and northern United States, upper plains. This spills into the United States. Again, this first wave of cool air will be noticeable and will be more pleasant, a little bit chilly across the north, but definitely more close to normal. And then the second wave is what could be more significant, and each model has its own twist on that second wave. You can see the GFS parallel keeps the second wave a bit further out, brings in more warm air, most likely to do with the storm system it has at this time. And if we were to check the MSL and precip, yeah, we do have a storm system, and always low pressures do bring in a good burst of warm air, and that is obviously represented by the 2 meter temperature anomalies. We do see a bit more warmer air than with the previous model I showed you. but the cool air is still definitely there. This GFS parallel was more showing of a cool weather pattern a couple of days ago. Now it has slightly backed off on that. I mean, you can see that the warm air is more dominant than even the cool air. It eventually does make its way down, but really it's more of a warm pattern, if you will, the more warm scenario side of things. It's still overall going to be relatively chilly, but it's more active in terms of storms, and it makes sense that when it's active with more storms, there's more influxes of warmer air. But you can see we have a snow system across the northern plains next Monday, and we see kind of these reoccurring little waves coming through, which bring up the temperatures. So definitely, you can see we have a giant potential storm right there, very far out, too far out to even mention, really. Let's go to the Canadian and let's see what temperatures it's showing for the past several days. It has been showing kind of like the coldest scenario of the weather, and you can see warm, a bit of cool air mixing in, but really the most substantial cool down will begin occurring this weekend, and that's not even the bad one. You know, the more major one occurs this late next weekend, late this weekend into early next weekend. You can see that the Canadian continues showing a very cold scenario, lots of cold temperatures. Some of these get just really ridiculously cold. I mean, single digits across Iowa. I really don't think that will occur, and the Canadian tends to do these type of extremes, unfortunately, but it's still a model that we have to look at because it's a weather model, and while it may be a bit more inaccurate, it has proven itself accurate in years prior, and occurrences that have happened before. Notice that the Canadian, again, keeps a lot of the cold air more than any other of the models, so definitely something we have to keep an eye on for. The European by itself, you can see, is showing quite a bit of cooler air as well. You can see that the Canadian, again, it shows a lot of cooler air at the beginning, warm air. We see the first cool off come into this weekend, and then the European staves the coolest of the air a bit away from the central United States. It keeps it towards the north, and there's a payoff to this, if you will. If a model is showing a lot of cold air, it's most likely going to show less storm systems and more of a dry cold pattern. And when a model like the European or the GFS parallel, which are more of a warm scenario, you can see we have cold air definitely there, but just limited to the northern United States. This is more likely to do with a strong low pressure that is occurring and bringing in quite a bit of warm air to the southern areas, but with the cold air abundant to the north, it's producing a lot of snow in those areas. So it's a trade-off: more cold, less snow; more snow, less cold, and that's always the case in winter. For the sake of example, if you take like an Arctic blast, it's always associated with sunny skies and dry weather. You're most likely not going to have -20 in Chicago with a snowstorm. The few times it has happened, it's always been a clear weather, which allows for the rapid cooling. Let's take a look at the ensembles now. These are ensembles is kind of what it sounds like. It's a huge group of weather models. You know how you have an ensemble in terms of instruments. This is, it's like a whole group of them. This is the same thing, but with weather models, and they take a whole averaged outlook. And you can see these are 26 or 24 models of the GFS family, and look at that, pretty confident, showing the cool air move into this Friday and into early this week. Late this week into early this weekend, and that wave does diminish, but you can see that the second wave is definitely there, especially affecting the northern United States, and it does hang around for quite a while, and the GFS models are definitely kind of keeping it around there for quite a while, so we'll have to see what it does with that. If you were to look at the European ensemble models, it definitely shows a fair share of similarities. Take this back. Warm air as of now. We see a bit of cool air mixing in. Really nothing significant. We see the first big cool off this weekend, and then into early next week we see some signs of that bigger cool off. But you can see that the European model keeps that a bit further away. And if you were to look at the European model from a few days ago, 12Z, you can see it was more showing of this cool air a bit further south, and it made its way further to the south versus the model that is showing it now into Tuesday, or as of Tuesday midnight. So the newer one is going to come out soon, but the newest one as of now shows that cold air further to the north and more limited to the northern United States. Looking at the 8 to 14 day outlook, again, I mentioned that the Climate Prediction Center is pretty confident in the cooler air, and you can see that they are 8 to 14 days is usually the least of their the lesser confidence of their forecast because it's further out, and that makes sense. A bit of warm across the southwest and east coast, generally though dominated by cooler air. Above average for the east coast, below average for the west and plains. I do apologize if I'm yawning right now a lot. I am on 4 hours of sleep, not because of the weather or me making these videos. It's because of the school. So I apologize for that. But 6 to 10 day outlook, October 18th through the 22nd, they have more confidence. It's for less further out. They have a lot more cold air and darker colors, indicating they are more confident. This isn't the magnitude, this is the probability. So their confidence that they're giving, and you can see in some locations it's almost an 100% chance. In terms of precip, it's much above average. And I just want to quickly show you, because you see the word snow mentioned in this forecast title, and I want to show you that it is the case. GFS parallel, let's go back to the latest model run and show you the total snowfall. You can see that it is spreading across the northern United States more than it typically would across the country during the October time frame. GFS, the 6 hour or the early morning model run, I want to show you the full model run. You can see a lot of snow across southern Canada and even the US. So generally the same thing. The Canadian also supports similar events. So again, I just, don't take this too hard, especially the snow forecast, because this will probably jump all over the place. But what you can take away from this is a snowier, colder pattern is on its way. And, that seems to be the case at this point. Very, very likely. So thank you so much for watching. The details will be brought up in other videos. And hopefully you have a good day. Thank you.